Welcome to this video about what is economics. So this is for students who are looking to start the economics A-level, more particularly the economics A-level at Baswick. My name's Tim and I'm one of the economics teachers. So first really, what is economics? Let's define it. What is kind of a useful but simplistic definition is given here by Evan Davis. He was the one-time economics editor at the BBC. You might have seen him in many other shows as well. His definition goes like this: it's a kit of wonderful tools for making sense of the world. And that's a lot of what you're going to be doing, making sense of the world by using economic models. But that's not really quite a complete definition. So let's kind of go in and break it down a little bit more. Economics, firstly, is a science. So that means there's been scientific observation of society. So they've collected quantitative data to develop their economic models to understand how society operates. So you'll be looking at individuals, firms and the wider economy based on the models that have been based from a scientific process. That's important to understand in the first place about what is economics about. But because of those economic models that you'll learn about, you'll be able to understand a great range of things, i.e. your toolkit, these models. Okay, so supply and demand, helping to understand why products are certain prices, why people live in certain areas, why there's such high house prices. It could explain a lot of things. Explain why you're coming to Baswick. It could explain the shirt on your back. It could explain the big things you see in the news like Brexit or protectionism in America and all the things you see like that. So it's really important in that regard. Important to understanding and studying economics is the fact that it's broken down into two main areas. So you've got microeconomics and macroeconomics. So in microeconomics, you're studying individual markets, so the housing market, or the market for oil, or labour markets, or the market for any product it could be. Whilst we look at products with significant effect, okay, so we might look at the impact of alcohol or cigarettes and things like that. But like I say, things like oil or housing or any market. And we'll learn economic models like supply and demand, gives you a basic view of how a market might operate and why we get certain goods and services, certain resources allocated to making certain goods and services, at what price and who receives those goods and services. But the thing is, in microeconomics, as in all economics, things can go wrong and we get market failure. So your job as an economist is to look at a market, look at how it should operate, see that perhaps it's not operating in the right way, and then should the government intervene to do something about it. So you see here a little picture, hope you can see that clearly, of lots of plastic and landfill and all the kind of pollution issues that we have coming from a certain market, so a certain market failure we call it. And you as an economist will have to try and solve these problems, okay? You've then got your macroeconomics, okay? So your macroeconomics will be more about the total economy. So when you see supply there, that's just supply in a market. Whereas supply here is called AS, aggregate supply. Aggregate means total. So all of the supply in the entire economy. So you take up all the markets for all the goods and services and you add them up, you get the total supply in the economy. So here in a particular market you've got the demand. That's just the demand for one market, like the demand for housing. Okay, and say the housing market. But over here, you've got aggregate demand, i.e. the total demand in the economy. So the total demand for all the goods and services in the economy. So therefore, we'll use market models like this to understand how our whole economy is performing, our macro economy. So how much economic growth are we getting, inflation, unemployment, balance of payments, the government's budget, all come into this macro economy, the whole picture of the national economy, and in year 2, the international economy. So then things go wrong again in macroeconomics. We don't get the economic growth we want. We get too high in unemployment, or we've got balance of payments deficit, i.e. we import more than we export, or we get high inflation. Why are these things problems and how do we solve them? Again, it's something you're going to be doing. As an economist, you'll have to act a bit like this guy here, Philip Hammond, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and decide, well, how much should we spend? How much should we tax? What should we tax? And what should we spend on? Okay? You might be looking at interest rates and all these things to help manipulate the economy to improve its performance on a national level. Okay, those kind of things you see in the news. So they're the two key areas you'll be looking at. So why study economics? Well, the main reason, I hope, is because it's motivating, because you get to study about what's going on in the real world and understand it better. So that toolkit I spoke about at the beginning, you'll use it to understand a wide range of micro and macro issues, as you can see on the board here. You know, from Brexit to housing crisis, to financial markets, to plastic pollution and climate change, economic growth, okay, poverty, you know, protectionism and trade. All these things, labour markets, poverty, inequality, or, you know, you might be more of a mind for financial economics and the credit crunch or trading. All these things are all economics, and it's varied, it's wide, and it's really interesting. It's a good thing to really get into and understand the world around you. So that's hopefully what will kind of bring a lot of passion into the subject.